Hi, it's Maggie, Mrs. Calabash Cooks. Come into my kitchen. Today it's for the produce. The apples are there, they're ripened. The tomatoes, it's gone colder, so they're not ripening very quickly. So today I'm going to make some green tomato chutney. It's one of my favourite. I used to sell this, produce and sell this commercially all over the world, and I looked the recipe up. I've not made it for quite some time, a few years, and the smallest amount I could make was 50 pounds of tomatoes, and I thought, that's not going to work. So anyway, we reduced it. The story was I went to get some tomatoes from the local co-op. It was this time of the year, and he said, sorry, we've picked them all. So I said, ugh. He said, but I've got green tomatoes. So I said, great, I can make chutney with green tomatoes. How many can I have? And he said, how many tons do you want? So I said, as many as you've got. So we sent the truck down from the business, collected all the tomatoes, tons of them, in a black polythene sack. And we've always had a frozen food, rented frozen food area. So we just put them in there and froze them in the sacks and used them. And it was one of the most popular chutneys that I made. And so the tomatoes, as you can see, are green. I'm a bit weepy because I've got onions. I don't do well with onions. So what I do with the tomatoes when I'm making chutney, just cut the tomatoes up roughly. You can chop them all by hand, but I find this an easier way of doing it. And you can see the tomatoes are quite hard. So I have a food processor, and I just it's going to make a noise, so I'm just going to emulsify these. Now they are quite liquid, and instead of chopping up pounds and pounds and pounds of onions, I just chop them, and I'm going to roughly chop them in here. I have got a bowl full of ingredients which I prepared earlier. You don't want to sit and watch me do this for hours. Now I've got green apples today. It doesn't matter. In England, we used to just collect the windfall apples to make the chutney, because chutney is a way of using up what you've got, and you're not going to use your best apples. We just cut out the pieces that were bruised, but just take out the core like that. We're leaving the skins on because it's going to in there, and it's going to be well and truly cooked. The thing is, with making chutney, you can't hurry it. And the way I make chutney, we don't actually have any pectin in it. It does have a slightly different flavour. The commercial chutneys usually are thickened with pectin. This is the reason that the fruit is cooked, but it's still quite liquid. And in a traditional chutney, we have to turn the heat down and then just gently cook or evaporate all the liquid out, and you lose about a quarter of your weight. So that's why commercially, but I never did that. I never put pectin in. So we just roughly want to chop these. There we are, that should do it. This saves an awful lot of time and effort. And if, like me, you can't peel and chop onions without crying, it's an absolute godsend. So let's just clean up the table. And this is the bowl that I've got with all the tomatoes and everything in there. Just going to have to get a spatula. So we're going to add this like that. There we are. Now that's our fruit for the chutney. And we're going to add some raisins for the sweetness. We need spices. Let me just get rid of these. And in here I've got chili powder, ginger and garlic powder. And in this one we've got pepper, I've got ginger in there, and in here I've got garlic powder and mustard seeds. I've got chilies. You can put some cloves in. It depends. You could put some cinnamon in. Excuse me, the spices. It just depends, up to you. And you need a good quality vinegar. It must be 5%. I like to use, excuse me, I like to use a white wine vinegar or a cider vinegar, but you can use a malt vinegar or a white vinegar, entirely up to you. And sugar. Sugar is your preservative. Now, I'm not going to put the sugar in until later. I want to cook the fruit first and then put the sugar in. So all we're going to do is put these in the pan. I'm going over here. Excuse me. And this is the smallest. You need a non-reactive pan, and this is the smallest pan I could find. I go from this size to this size to an enormous pan. I used to cook 45. I had a 45-gallon boiler that I used to cook the chutneys in, and so we need to bring this up like that, and we're going to add the spices. Can I do that? I think so. Da-da-dum. Here we go. There we are. So let's put the raisins in. It doesn't matter if it's sultanas, raisins, as long as it gives the sweetness. Stir those like that. The spices. Chutney has been made in English kitchens since about the medieval times and probably before, because, as I said, you're using up all the waste vegetables that you can't preserve. They've probably got a little bit bruised and you just cut them out. Put the spices in there like that. It is better to keep the window open when you're cooking this, because it is quite smelly, the vinegar. Now we're just going to bring this up to the boil, and then we're going to turn it down until the fruit is almost cooked, and then we're going to add the sugar. We don't want to burn the sugar. So I'll be back later. So bye. Hi everybody, we're back again. It's taken a couple of hours to get to this stage, and this is the crucial stage. Let me see if I can lift it up for you. Hang on a minute. Can you see how thick it's become? And look, I can do that and we can cut through it. I'm going to have to put it down again. It's very heavy. Whew, that pot weighs a ton. So I'm just going to take some jars out of the oven. These are nice and hot. I'll just take 4 out. and you don't want to see me potting the lot, we'll come back and show that. At least they didn't break, but they'll have to be re-sterilised. There we are. Let me just put that one over there. So now I've got 4 jars. The lids have been sterilised in boiling water and then just covered over with a clean towel. So I'm going back to the oven. We'll close this. Now I can't lift this pot, so what I'm going to do is just scoop some mixture into the jug. Now there's 2 ways of filling a jar. One is just pouring it in, but I find it easier, I'm going back over here, I find it easier to have a funnel like this. Now this was a funnel we just cut off the end, or Derek cut the end off me because we're not using it, but a pop bottle, a soda bottle, just saw it and use it as a funnel. I used to have a funnel just for jams and chutney. You can buy them, but now as you can see, it is very, very thick, and there's a big temptation. I'm going to get rid of that and get a smaller. There's a big temptation when it's almost at this stage to think it's done, it's finished, but it's not. So don't be tempted. And unfortunately, it's not the sort of thing where you can go away and leave it, because you have to keep going back and just stirring it. Now we want to leave a little bit of headroom, like that. So this takes a little bit of patience. Just go to sort of what I call the shoulder of the jar. Have a little, either a cloth which has just been boiled, or a piece of kitchen paper. You want to make sure, have a look around and just make sure there's no air pockets, because that's where, if it's going to deteriorate, that's where it will deteriorate, when it gets into the air pockets. So I'm using the clip-on tops today. So these are going to be hot, so hold it with a cloth. Now that will form a vacuum. The middle bit, it goes down, it will seal, and that is how we're potting the chutneys. Now these, if you can, I mean, I'm looking at it in I'm thinking, oh gosh, I could eat some of that. But it is best if you can leave it for 2 or 3 months. That's why we make it now, and it'll be ready for Christmas. And so I'm going to pot it up, come back and see me, and we'll see how many jars we've got. I'm going to let these cool before I label. So give me another 5 or 10 minutes and then come back and see me. So bye. Hi, the magic of television. It's all potted. We started off with that and we ended up with that. So as you can see, they're all potted. I'm going to leave them, the jars to get cool before I label. Just remember, hot jars, hot ingredients going in the jar, sterilised lids, screw the lids on. These are the clip-on lids, and you'll get a seal. And when you see them in the grocery store, it pulls the lid down, and that's when you've got a seal. And so if you can leave these for 3 months, 2 to 3 months, the flavour is better. If you can't, a month. I think I will be digging in somewhere around Thanksgiving. I don't think I'm going to be able to leave it much longer than that. So please go to my website, mrscalabash.com, and I will have the recipes up on the site, and also a history of chutney. Just something interesting for you to read, because I don't think many people knew that Queen Victoria actually had an Indian chef for all her spicy sauces. So this way of preserving goes back a long time, and the history of chutney, because it comes from an Indian word, will actually be on the website. So a little light reading for you. The recipes are there. Don't forget, mrscalabashcooks.com, and I'll see you again. Bye.